If you love Syngoniums, you're in the right place. I'm going to tell you and show you why you need to give your Syngoniums a moss pole. Yes, that's right, a moss pole. If not a moss pole, then a stake. Anything for that plant to climb up on, and you will see your gorgeous beauty transform. I'm Nora, the Leca Queen, and I absolutely adore Syngoniums. I love them. And I'm going to show you all the Syngoniums that I have living on moss poles. I'm going to start from my smallest Syngonium living on a moss pole to my largest one, and then you'll be able to appreciate how that plant really loves to climb and how gorgeous it can look. Let's get going. This one here is my Syngonium Red Heart. That is a gorgeous, beautiful plant. It's got these red tones going on in the leaves, and it's just looking so fabulous. And as you would know, a Syngonium is also called an arrowhead plant, and those leaves just look like arrows. They look absolutely glorious. Now this plant has just gone onto a moss pole. I just put it up on a moss pole, and the reason I did that is because it started to vine. Maybe vine is not the right term for it. I don't know what they call it, but it starts to get longer and it starts to bunch up and it starts to get area roots. So when that happens, your Syngonium is really telling you, look, I want to climb on something, because Syngoniums in nature actually climb. Might not be all Syngoniums, I know it's not all of them, but quite a number of them do. So when you see your Syngonium starting to bunch together and wanting to climb, then that is a signal to you to give it something to attach onto. Next up is my Syngonium Red Spot. That is my red spot there. Look at how gorgeous that is. Look at the 3 lobes of that leaf coming through. That's kind of like what a mature Syngonium starts to look like. So this one's starting a bit early, and it just looks so fabulous. The red on that leaf is just gorgeous. And this plant was starting to do the same thing. It's a bit difficult to see on this one because it's a bit smaller, but it's that bunching, it's that vining that I was talking to you about. And you do start to see area roots. Syngoniums do get area roots, and those area roots actually attach into the moss pole, and they take advantage of the moss pole and they start to grow. Oh, I love this one. This is my Syngonium Aurea. Aurea yellow. Look at that. Just look at that. That is just, that variegation on that leaf is absolutely stunning. And then I've got this one, oh, hang on. This one over here, that's almost a half moon. It's a little bit half moon, and it's got that variegation there. I've got 2 plants on this pole. I've got the tiny one here and the bigger one there. And the bigger one is actually starting to get that vining. You can see over here, you've got that distinction. You've got 2 layers. You've got this one here and you've got that top bit there. And the area root is actually going to form on here, and this is why I actually put this plant up on a moss pole, because it is ready to start producing area roots, and I wanted to take advantage of the moss pole. And as you can see here, there's a new leaf that is about to come through, so I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like. That there is the variegation on that tiny leaf. This is going to be a spectacular plant and definitely one to look out for. That right there is my Syngonium Aurea. Next up is my Syngonium Panda. I love my panda. That is my Syngonium Panda. Look at how fabulous and starry that looks. That is my panda living on a moss pole, and you can see over here, over there, that's an area root there. That's an area root, and that plant is ready to latch onto this moss pole. I've actually got a video where I showed you how I make the moss pole for this particular plant and how I potted it up. If you haven't seen it, just click on the link above and that'll take you straight to it. The good thing about Syngoniums is the area roots they're not very big, and they're not very, very big plants. You don't need to have a very big moss pole. If you take a look at this one, it is quite small and it's more than enough to provide support for the plant, but it also supplies nutrition, so your plant is actually better off for it. That panda is really, really happy and is doing so well. And can you imagine what this plant is going to look like in the next 6 months? It is doing fabulously. Next up is my Syngonium Pink Splash. That right there is my Syngonium Pink Splash. Look at how splashy those leaves are. You've got those specks of pink going through everywhere. It's just glorious. It's beautiful. I really, really love this plant. Now, in this plant is how you can start to see what Syngoniums do. So you can see this is the stem here, and it's getting longer and longer, and it's got those area roots actually attaching to the moss pole over there. So you can see I've got that Velcro plant tie there just to help the plant be next to the moss pole and to get those area roots really, really close to the moss pole so they can attach as quickly as they can. But that's what a Syngonium starts to do. It starts to branch, it gets longer, and that is the point at which your moss pole really, really comes into its own. If you're finding value from this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps my channel. Now, you guys know who this one is. This is my Syngonium ALBO. This Syngonium ALBO has been through quite a journey. And one of the things that I actually didn't like this plant before because it was giving me all white leaves. And as you know, all white leaves do not survive. So my plant was pretty bare. So I had to get additional plants to put into this planter so my plant could be nice and bushy. Take a look at her now. She's gorgeous. She's absolutely bushy, but look at this. I've got a little all white leaf there. I don't know, I'll see what happens. But generally, I think this plant is doing really, really well now. I've got a video where I show how I put new plants into my old plant. Just click on the link above and that'll take you to it. And the whole point was to try and get it to look like this, to look lush. Now, this moss pole is really, really good because I can show you what a Syngonium does. This here. This is actually one of the area roots that's come from one of the points. Not even sure where it's come from, but it's come through the moss pole and it's now going back into the pot. So you can imagine when a plant has that many roots are available to take up nutrition and your plant actually does better for it. So that's my Syngonium ALBO, looking really, really good. I love the mix of greens and whites, and that moss pole again, not too big, not very, very wide, but doing the job of supporting this plant. And pretty soon I'm actually going to need to extend this moss pole, but it's really small and this plant is living in a 14-centimeter pot, and I envision that it will stay there for some time. But that is what a moss pole can do to your Syngonium. It can make it look pretty and just allow it to shine. 3 kings, we are stepping into royalty. Stepping into royalty. This is my Syngonium 3 kings. That is her over there. Look at how majestic that one looks. She is becoming a really, really big, tall mama. Look at that. That's actually the top of my moss pole there. That is a new leaf coming through there. And I'm figuring that I have to extend this moss pole. And as you can see, this one actually doesn't even have any Velcro plant tie. This plant has securely attached to the moss pole. I mean, I'm trying to, if I do that, that stem is securely attached to that moss pole and it's just really loving life. I've got 2 plants on this moss pole. There's one over there and one over there. And what can I say? That's what a moss pole will do for your Syngonium. It's not necessarily about moss poles. It's really something that can support your Syngonium as it is becoming a lot more viney and wants to climb up. So you can get a stake, you can get a wooden plank.
Anything?
Anything that you prefer to use that works for you might work. For me, moss poles are my go-to, so that's why I have moss poles. It's really easy to make a smaller kind of moss pole for a Syngonium, and you can use the normal kind of moss pole, which is the simple kind of moss pole, or you can actually use a moss pole with a plastic sheet back. This over here is my Syngonium Batik. I love, love, love my Batik. It's getting really, really big, and this one's living on a moss pole with a plastic sheet back. She's doing really, really, really well. I'm really happy with the progress that this Syngonium is making, and I think I'm needing, oh, hang on. I'm needing to extend that moss pole because, as you can see right there, I've got some area roots attaching into that moss pole over there. And the second this plant gets even taller, those area roots will have nowhere to go. So I need to give it an extension. But that's what a Batik can look like when it's on a moss pole. It looks so, so much nicer. Do your Syngonium a favor and put it on a stake, a moss pole, anything. Last but not least, and if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you will know what Syngonium I'm about to whip out next. And that there is my Syngonium Mojito. That is my Mojito. It's a spectacular plant. It is beautiful. Look at that. Just look at the variegation on those leaves. It is one of the most beautiful plants I have ever seen. This Mojito is going places, living on a very, very small moss pole, as you can see, but look at what that moss pole is actually doing for this plant. And I'll show you some of the area roots that it's got going. There's quite a number of roots there on the side. That's a root there that's come from there, and it's now gone back into the Leca. There's 3 plants on this moss pole, and I'm really, really happy with it. Look at that one. Look at that. Look at how mottled that is. It's absolutely beautiful. Syngonium Mojito is one of my most favorite plants. I absolutely love this plant. It's growing really, really well. So put your Syngoniums on a moss pole. They will absolutely love you. They will. This is my Syngonium Mojito. This is my Syngonium Aurea. This is what this little Aurea is going to look like in a number of months. I cannot wait. So I completely urge you to give your Syngoniums something to climb on. This video was all about Syngoniums and moss poles, so I'm not going to show you my whole Syngonium collection. If you want to see some of those, go and watch this video over here where I showcase some of my Syngoniums. I will see you there.